you sing the x equals song slowly?
X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
Yay!
X equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
-4, and we are in the section solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. Okay, and this is standard 19.0. Okay, so first off, we need to understand exactly what the quadratic formula states. Okay, for any quadratic equation in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and it has to be in that form, and a cannot equal to 0, the quadratic formula that you can use to solve for x or solve for the roots is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so you can either memorize the formula or you can memorize the song, whichever is easier for you. Okay, and when do we use this? Okay, you're going to use this whenever you can't factor by any other method. Okay, and it always works. It's always accurate. Okay, so it's always your go-to whenever you can't determine what the factors are. Okay, we're going to start off with the proof. Okay, because you know what it looks like, you know when to use it, but you need to know where it came from, where it was derived from. Okay, so we're going to start off with the quadratic equation. This is a general form of any quadratic equation. Okay, and our goal is to derive the quadratic formula. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I can divide everything by a. Divide everything by a. Okay, because I want to get rid of this coefficient first. So I'm going to have x squared plus b over ax plus c over a, and 0 divided by anything is still 0. Okay, so that's the first thing we do because a cannot be 0. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I want to get all the x's to one side and everything else on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract a c over a. And if I subtract c over a here, I'm going to subtract c over a here. Okay, so what that leaves us with is x squared plus b over ax. And this cancels out, so I will have on the side negative c over a. Okay. What I'm going to do now is what you learned yesterday, the process of completing the square. Okay, we are going to find out what this box is going to be. Okay, and whatever we add to this left side, we're going to have to add to the right side. Okay, and we're going to use the process of completing the square. So let's think about this. The coefficient here is b over a. I know that I'm going to need to divide it by 2 or multiply it by 1/2. When I do that, I'm going to get b over 2a. With this b over 2a, I'm going to need to now square it. Okay, so this is b over 2a times b over 2a, which will give me b squared all over 2a times 2a is 4a squared. Okay, so what I'm going to be adding on both sides is b squared all over 4a squared plus b squared all over 4a squared, because whatever you add to one side, you must add to the other side. Okay, so now we can factor the left side. This is x plus b over 2a quantity squared. Okay, on the left side, we'll have minus c a plus b squared over 4a squared. Okay, so we're going to clean this up a little bit. Okay, we know what the finished product is going to look like, so we're going to make it look a little bit more like that. I'm going to use a commutative property and move this over to the side. Okay, so I'll have x plus b over 2a quantity squared equals, and I'll have b squared over 4a squared plus, or actually minus, c over a. And I know I'm going to need a common denominator for working with fractions, so it looks like our common denominator here will be 4a squared. I would need to multiply this by 4a to get 4a squared, and same in the numerator. Okay, so what this becomes is actually x plus b over 2a squared, and in the numerator we'll have b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. Okay, this is what we have so far. And all we've done really is we've completed the square. Okay, so now we're going to go about solving for x, just like you did last night in your homework. Okay, I'm going to rewrite this on some more paper. We have x plus b over 2a quantity squared equal to b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. Sorry. Okay, so that's where we left off. And recall that what you did in order to solve for x is, well, we know that this whole quantity is being squared, so let's take the square root of that. Let's take the square root of this, square root of that. We'll have x plus b over 2a equal to plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over the square root of 4a squared. Okay, because remember the quotient rule, if you have a fraction that's underneath the square root symbol, it's actually both the numerator and the denominator is going to be under that square root. So now what we can do is simplify this a little bit. We have x, and I'm going to subtract b over 2a here and subtract b over 2a here. So x will be equal to plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over, and this is 2a. And when we subtracted the b, what we have is minus b over 2a. Okay, so again, I'm going to use the commutative property, move this in the front, because this is something that you might recognize. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over, since they have a common denominator, 2a. Okay, so what we did was we used the process of completing the square and solving for x to solve for this quadratic formula. Okay, but you don't have to do that all the time. Okay, I just wanted to show you, you need to understand the steps because it's very important. There are actually a lot of questions on the STAR test relating to what the next step would be to get from the quadratic equation to the quadratic formula. So you need to understand each step and be able to replicate that, or tell us what the next step would be in order to solve for the quadratic formula. Okay, so with this formula, you're going to memorize it, and we're going to take a look at now how to apply it. Okay, so we're going to start with the very first example. 2x squared plus 98 equals 28x. Okay, and remember, when we start, we always want to start off with the equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0, and a is never equal to 0. Okay, so we have an a. This looks like your a here. Here's your a. B is here. Okay, so what we have to do now is we have to subtract 28x and subtract 28x on this side. So we need to rewrite the equation. It will look like this, equal to 0, because we have to have it in this form here. Okay, always has to be in the quadratic equation form to start off with. Now, what I could do, I can say, well, I have an a b, and a c here. These are my coefficients. However, you can take it one step further and simplify this a bit because we know that these are all even numbers. If I divide everything by 2, divide that by 2, divide that by 2, divide that by 2, I can actually have x squared minus 14x plus 40, looks like that's 49 equal to 0. Okay, in which case now my a value will be 1. Notice a is not equal to 0, you're good to go. B is equal to a negative 14. Okay, it's very important. Take that sign. And C is equal to a positive 49. Okay, so now that we have identified A, B, and C, what we want to do now is to plug it into the quadratic formula. Okay, quadratic formula again, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, and we stated that a is 1, b is negative 14, and c is 49. So all we have to do now is plug a, b, and c into the formula and solve for x. Okay, so x equals negative b. Right now b is a negative 14. If we take the negative or the opposite of that, you'll have a positive 14. Plus or minus the square root of b squared. 14 squared should give you 196 minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 49. Okay, and let's see what we get when we multiply this out. Looks like 49 times 4, 36, 196 as well. So here we have 196 minus 196. So this is all going to zero out. Okay? And remember, all of this is over 2 times a, so 2 times 1. So since all of this is 0, x is equal to 14 plus or minus nothing all over 2. And 14 over 2 is 7. So x is equal to 7. Okay, so I want you to try this one here. Okay, bring it to class tomorrow and we will go over your answer. Okay, let's try another example. Sometimes what you will get is a value that's not exactly an integer. Okay, but we can still work with this. Again, a here will be 2. B here, there's a coefficient there, you don't see it, but it is an invisible one. C here is a negative 14. Okay, again, let's write out our quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, let's substitute in the values. X will be equal to negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times 2. Okay, so simplifying this a little bit, we have the square root of 1 squared is 1. Negative times a negative will give us plus 4 times 2 is 8, so we have 14 times 8, which will give us about 112 over 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so if we were to simplify this some more, negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 113 over 4. Now 113 is not a perfect square, we obviously know that. It's sandwiched somewhere between, looks like 10 squared, which is 100, and 11 squared, which is 121. It looks like it falls somewhere in between, and it's a little closer to 121 actually. So my guess, and you're making an educated guess here, it's about 10.6, let's say. It's about 10.6, okay? So what we can do, because we know this value, or the value close to this square root, we're going to substitute that value in. So we're going to have two cases. The first case, we're going to have x will be equal to negative 1 plus 10.6 divided by 4. And in the second case, we're going to have x equals negative 1 minus 10.6 all over 4. Okay. So when you solve for this, it looks like we're going to have x will be equal to 9.6 divided by 4. That's about 2.4. Okay. And in this case, you'll have negative 11.6 divided by 4. So negative 11.6 divided by 4, 3. So that looks like a negative 2.9. Okay, it looks like negative 2.9. So x is equal to either a positive 2.4 or a negative 2.9. Okay. So I want you to try this problem here. Remember that when you start, you always want to start with something in the quadratic equation form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So in this case, a quick hint, you want to make sure that you subtract 3 from both sides, okay, before you get started with that. Bring that back to class tomorrow and we will go over it.
Pass your mind the school, be your mind the flashy all over create.